Who else? Who else?
What, say that again, Vic.
Says, we're too good looking to be on the Jeremy Kyle show. It's pretty much all that they have bad teeth.
Right, okay, so we're the good looking bunch then. Right, okie dokie. Well, I'm going to make a start. So we've got some updates as usual, some business update bits. We've had some questions that have come in between the last session and this one, which we're going to hopefully just update everybody on. So we've tied off those bits from the background. And then obviously the floor is yours to ask whatever you want, to say whatever you want, to make any comments, and we'll do our best to answer them today. And if we can't, we'll go away and we'll come back to people with responses. But it's been good that in between these meetings, we've had emails from people that didn't attend, but had actually been told or had seen what had been asked in these sessions and had then sent these responses in. So if you can all, as our core team, because I'm getting to know these faces now, I'm going to call you our core team. If you can kind of champion staff joining if they can. I know devices is an issue. We've got a group that's set up to start to look at ICT off the back of the staff roadshows and off the back of some of the work that we were doing anyway. So we really do want, you know, to try and make sure everybody's got the opportunity to join, and then more importantly, that they want to get an idea of what's happening in the business and an opportunity to ask the, you know, the people that are in here, that are key managers and people who are delivering services, to help us to improve communication with all the staff. So I'm going to start off with a really key update, but it only affects the staff who work in our supported living services up in Chesterfield and Derbyshire area, and that's in relation to the MENCAP sleeping challenge that went to the Supreme Court. So I'm sure even if you don't have sleep-ins in your area, you will have heard about this challenge. And it was the organisation, some employees who work for MENCAP were challenging that if they were required to sleep on the premises and be available for work, that they should be paid national minimum wage for being there on the premises. And this has gone backward and forward now at every level of the court system. At one stage, it was deemed that national minimum wage should be paid, and lots of organisations responded by topping up staff's payment to make sure that their overall salary didn't fall below national minimum wage for the hours that they were at work. And so we did that because if the court had have upheld that decision, organisations would have had to have gone back over 6 years, calculated every single employee that did a sleep-ins pay over those 6 years, and then made a payment for any underpay that the staff had received over 6 years. So right back when this very first started, we took the decision in the business to start to pay the top-up payment to staff. So nobody who's been doing sleep-ins for us over the last few years has not received a minimum of national minimum wage for their sleep-in shift. So the decision was made that a sleep-in does not warrant national minimum wage, as long as the person is told that they're required to sleep on that shift and they've got appropriate facilities to sleep in, i.e. we've given them a bed and some blankets and a pillow and somewhere where they can actually sleep during that shift. And then if they are disturbed during the night for work purposes, that we pay them for the time that they're awake and working. And so that's what we've been doing anyway. So realistically, there's no change for us, except obviously we were then waiting for Derbyshire County Council to tell us whether or not they were going to change the way that they were paying us. So they don't pay us national minimum wage for a sleep-in, they pay us a fixed amount. But we've done some calculations, and because we don't want to be in a position to take away benefits that staff have been used to, we've made the decision now to continue to pay the top-up payment for all our staff that are undertaking sleep-ins. So for anybody that's on here from supported living, I'm sure that will be positive news for you. And we'll obviously be sending a message out to all of the staff to let them know that we are going to continue to pay the top-up payment that we've been doing for the last few years to ensure that during that sleeping shift, their wage does not fall below national minimum wage. So I'm really, really pleased about that. I had to go backward and forward a few times with Derbyshire, but I think we've got a really good result there, and that will allow us to continue to pay the best that we can for the service that we're delivering. So really, really pleased to give some positive news. It's good when I've got something positive to say. I might not be so keen to come on the screen if we'd have been withdrawing it, but it's really nice to be on the screen saying something positive. So that's kind of the first update of the day. We had a couple of questions from the last session that we said we'd come back and provide answers on. One of them was around payment for flow testing. I think that was raised by somebody that's not in the meeting today, but I think either Lana or Jan. I think Lana, did you say you've got the updates on? Okay, fire away, Lana.
Yeah, so it came through as a question raised and about staff getting paid for flow testing, and Jan, you might want to add to this, but it was responded to the staff member directly, and it's being claimed back through the ICF fund through the homes. So is there anything, Jan, in terms of that? I think it's being done for nursing homes. I think the question had come from supported living, and they're doing their tests at home. And it's from what I understand that it has gone to the unions, and the unions have agreed that it's a reasonable request to be done.
That's right. The unions have said if they're taking the tests home and testing at home, they shouldn't need to be paid for the half hour waiting on the results coming through. It's a reasonable request for us to ask them as a company to do that.
Okay, lovely. Thank you both for that one. We'd also had a question that had come through from a member of our team that works in the nursing care services. The question had been put that they'd heard on the grapevine. We have loads of things on the grapevine. We always know this. It's brilliant when we get a grapevine question. And it was to say that they'd heard that we would be asking people to take voluntary redundancies within the nursing care homes. There is no option for voluntary redundancies. What we are doing in the nursing homes, which the nurse managers are aware of anyway, is Derbyshire County Council have now for a number of years wanted us to relook at the structure and the bed prices within our 3 nursing care homes, and we've pushed this back and pushed it back. But what we do want to do, because we have got people who are in temporary acting up positions, and we do want to look at the structure to make sure that we've got the correct staff at the right level managing our nursing care homes, is we are looking at the structure, and we'll be starting a review with the nurse managers to look at the levels of staffing that we've got, the grades of staff that we've got on each shift, what we need in terms of additional resource. So managers have raised that admin support is probably would be quite helpful at the minute, because obviously we've introduced EBIS, as we all know, over the last few years, and there's a lot more admin around the services. So we are going to be looking at that whole structure. But at this moment in time, there is no request for voluntary redundancies, and we're hoping that through the freeze that we've done on recruitment over the last 9 to 12 months, that we won't be in a position where redundancies will be required. But that will come out over the next few months when we start to put together a list of all the staff that we have got, and then we start to work together to look at what a positive structure for the nursing care homes would be. So if there are any rumours anywhere, if anybody tells you that we're making people redundant, at this minute in time, there's no requirement for redundancies. If anything, I'm going to come on to asking you all to help and support us to be fully recruited across the services rather than asking people to leave. It's more a case of getting staff at the minute rather than losing them. So that's kind of an update and an answer on the voluntary redundancy situation. The other bits just to jump onto, and I'm going to start with the recruitment one because I just started to talk about that. At this moment in time, we have quite a number of vacancies because obviously during COVID, all of our attention has been distracted from some of the day-to-day stuff that is really, really important. But it's also been really important that we've reacted and responded to COVID in the way that we have. And down to all of the work that you've all done, we've been exceptionally resilient as an organisation, and that's resulted in very, very low infection numbers, which has been great to be able to report. We recently had an audit, internal audit done on how we'd managed COVID, and some of you would have been involved in that. And that's gone really, really well. There was one recommendation from that audit, and other than that, we provided substantial assurance. You'd all provided substantial assurance to how you protected all of our staff, all of our colleagues, but also protected the people that we support during that time. So that was brilliant. But we all know that distraction has been there because of COVID that's prevented us doing some of the other stuff that we wanted to do. And recruitment has slipped during that time in some of our areas. What we're doing now is, you'll all know we've got an EMH Care and Support Facebook page. I'm not brilliant at Facebook, but Lana and lots of others are very good at Facebook. And what we want to ask you all to do is, can you join our Facebook page, and can you encourage all of your staff and colleagues to join the Facebook page, because that's where we're going to be posting any job adverts. So where we've got vacancies, Lana will be keeping our Facebook page updated with those vacancies. And then if you could encourage staff to share those vacancies on their own Facebook page, so that we can try and get the word out there that we're recruiting. We all know now from the pay award that's recently been announced, our frontline workers are now being paid quite a bit above national minimum wage. And we know lots of other providers, our competitors aren't paying as well, or providing as good a terms and conditions as we are. So I think we should have an edge on others, but we need to get it out there that we've got these vacancies and encourage people to apply. So if I can ask you all to take away from today, being a friend on EMH Care and Support Facebook, sending stuff through to put on there and liking or commenting on there, but more importantly to share the recruitment ads that we've got, where you know one of those positions is in an area where you've got friends on your Facebook. I did say on there the other day, there's no point me sharing it in Wolverhampton because I don't think anybody will come, but if you know that those vacancies are in the area where you live, if you could help us by sharing that would really support us with our recruitment campaign. Our target is to be fully staffed. And the reason for that target is twofold, really. One, because we know that the people that we support get a much better quality service from staff that work with them on a regular basis and know them really well. And I'm not saying we haven't got agency workers like that, because I know that we have got some brilliant regular agency workers that are as good as our own team. But the big issue with the agency, as you all know, is paying an hour's worth of agency results in a deficit. So it's a bit like me. Giving you a tenner to go to the shop to buy an essential item with, and you've got to pay £12 for it when you've only got a tenner. And that's the reality of the use of agency. The agency hourly rate doesn't cover the hourly rate that we get to deliver that hour's worth of care. So every time we use an agency, we're going into overdraft. If you think of it in that way, you're eating into an overdraft budget because you're paying out more than you're getting in. We've got high use of agency at the minute across a number of our services. And as you all know, what I've been championing for the last few years is paying people well, you know, recognising and paying and rewarding the staff that we've got. And my journey on that has come to a point now where it's difficult to do more, because I can't justify being able to do that when we haven't, you know, we're not running as efficiently as we can be. So where we want to get to is zero use of agency by being fully staffed and overstaffing where we need to, so that we've got spare hours, if you like, to use when staff are on annual leave and sickness instead of using agency. So if you can really help by championing that, discussing it with your staff, reminding them when they're on shift. Have you joined Facebook? You know, join up. Not asking people to be vocal on there, not asking people to post stuff if they don't want it, but if they could just keep up to date with what we're doing and really share those recruitment adverts, that would really help us. Because I'm conscious at the minute, I would imagine none of you know where we've got vacant posts. Because if you're in a job, you're not looking for a job, are you? So if I asked any one of you, how many vacancies do you think we've got at this minute in time? Anybody hazard a guess? Nobody? Nobody willing to put their head above? I would say at this, now I don't know this accurately, but I would say at this minute in time, we probably have somewhere between line services. So you imagine we'll have staff that are doing overtime, and we'll have staff that are picking up, you know, additional shifts wherever possible. But a lot of that cover is coming from agency use. and we need to start to look at eliminating agency and getting a really good stable team of staff. So if there's anything you go away with today, can you keep thinking to yourself, we need more staff? What can I do to support this campaign to get us fully staffed? So that's my big champion moment of the day. So please bring your colleagues on board and help us to try and achieve that by the end of this year. I'd love us to be fully staffed, and I know that Jan, particularly in regulated care services, would be absolutely over the moon if we could achieve that bit. Just some bits on general business updates. Springfield, our new scheme in Ashby, doing really well. We've now got 35 of the 65 apartments that have been offered and accepted. That includes some shared ownership units. We've got 10 applications from people that are going to panel, I think, this week. So that'd take us up to 45 if they're all accepted. And then we've got 5 people who desperately want to move in the service, but they live outside of the catchment area. So they'll stay on hold. And if we get closer to the handover date and we've still got 5 flats available, then we'll work with the commissioners to make sure that those people get a place there if there are any places left at that point. We've started recruitment. We've got Tracy, the manager, who's already joined us. Tracy's been in one of the meetings before, I think. And I think they've managed to successfully appoint to the wellbeing officer post, the rota coordinator post, and they're interviewing for the care and support workers for nights and days, and the team leaders and domestics there now as we speak. Due for people to start moving in around September, so we've still got plenty of time. And at the minute, the building is just in kind of the final preparation stages for carpets to be laid and furniture to be delivered and all the nice bits. That's what we're waiting for now, the nice bits. So for anybody, if you're over that way, if you want to pop and have a visit, contact Leslie Ann. I'd suggest you wait until the coffee shop's open because it looks like it's going to be amazing. And if any of you are having a day out over by Ashby, then once we're open and running, you can call in and grab a coffee and a sandwich at that scheme. It will be a real nice flagship scheme for the organisation. So yeah, and we may at some point try and get a bit of a team meeting there so that people can see it and have a look around at the new standard of build. I know Louise, I've seen Louise here somewhere. I think Louise, you'll be impressed with it. It's very, very similar to Oak Court, just with some changes really, because it's a new design and a new site, but really well worth a look and a visit if you get the opportunity.
Definitely.
Sorry, say that again.
I said definitely, it's Louise.
Oh, right, yes, Louise. Have you been over yet, Louise?
Not yet, but no, I'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely go along and have a look, see what you think. Given we've moved on a bit from Oak Court days and Waterside, so be worth a little nosy around, definitely. Yeah. And as I say, a nice coffee. They do a nice coffee. They've got the proper nice coffee machines and everything there, which is good. So that's Springfield. In terms of kind of core management team, I know Jan has now got Sam, who we've met before in the meeting, Sam Thorpe as the ops manager, and we've now got Nen, who's joined us, and Nen will be looking after the services kind of Northamptonshire and Leicester way. So Nen's a new ops manager that's joined us in the last couple of weeks, Jan. So he's fairly new. Nobody put him off yet, okay? And so that now gives. Are you there, Nen?
Yeah, I'm here.
So welcome, Nen. If anybody says anything bad, Nen, just silence it. I'll silence.
No, definitely. No, I mean, I haven't heard any bad thing, so it's been all good up till now. So yeah, looking forward to be part of the journey of EMH journey.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. That's
nice
great.
to meet you. Hi.
Hi, Andrew.
This is our usual bunch at the minute, Ned. We're trying to widen it out and get more and more people on these sessions. But yeah, these are our usual motley crew on this call. So and it's really good to have you on board now. And I think that will give us the additional resource now that we need in supported living to take us on that journey of moving to delivering brilliant services for people, which is where we want to be, really. So welcome, Nen.
Thank you.
And we've got a new manager that's starting in a couple of weeks' time for our supported living service. So most of you will know Chris Goddard has been the registered manager for just about a year now. Chris has considered his career opportunities, and he's decided that he wants to take a different path, and he's considering potentially moving into nursing. And so we've proactively recruited in preparation for that. And Jan and Sam have got the new registered manager for supported living joining us in a couple of weeks' time. Her name's Jodie, and I'm sure you'll all join us in welcoming Jodie when she comes on board. So that's
just to update you, she starts on Tuesday.
Oh, God.
A week today.
Brilliant. So that's really good news. So we've got no gap between registered managers, which is great. So it'll give the team that stability that they need within supported living. So I'm sure, as I say, you'll all welcome her when you meet her in the sessions that we've got coming up. Within our day and community services, you all know I've said many times during the pandemic, they've been the services that have probably been the most difficult to manage through the pandemic, mainly because they were closed, then opened, then closed again, then reopened. Then we've got the COVID restrictions with the numbers of people that we can bring in on the days. And then we've also got the people who desperately rely on our day and community services for respite, particularly older parents that are at home and have got obviously a sibling with disabilities to support on a day-to-day basis. So Tom and the team have really been looking to engage with community projects so that we can do more in the outdoors and deliver more services that don't rely on us bringing people into buildings. We've recently started up a couple of new volunteering projects in Matlock, and they're going really well, and there's been some filming done. I don't know if Victoria, you know a bit more about that than I do, but there's been some filming done on some of our service users participating in some volunteering work out in the community.
I didn't know of that, but that's really exciting. I know that they're planning an activity day in Matlock in June.
Yeah. So there are loads of these projects now that Tom's doing a lot of work to try and connect with people. We do volunteering at Peak Rail, and we've done some Walking for Health projects. We've done some work over the weekend around helping to clear up some of the key attractions and walkways within Derbyshire. We all know Derbyshire's got some beautiful areas, and particularly up in the High Peak. So there's a lot going on in terms of volunteering up there. And some of these stories will be posted on Facebook. So if you join us, you'll see some of these things happening. So please do jump on, become one of our friends. The Barrett's groups. So you'll all know you participated in the Barrett's survey and told us some of the things that we really needed to focus on so that it made your life easier and made your job more enjoyable and easier to do. And those groups have now been set up or are in the process of being set up. One of them is on ICT, so you'd be really glad to know that, given the work we did recently at the staff roadshows and you were asked what would make life easier. I know there were loads of comments that came out of there around ICT and Wi-Fi and connectivity and devices. And Jeff Clark, our Exec Director of Finance, has already contacted me to say, look, Joe, really want to support this moving forward. And I've advised Jeff that we're setting up a specific group to look at ICT, and they're going to have a look at making sure a member of the ICT department is involved in that group to help us to move that forward. But I think just a reminder to everybody, particularly in the services that were the old enabled services, just think back 5 years, you didn't have mobile phones, tablets, some didn't have computers or printers. So although we know we're not where we want to be, it's always worth pausing and remembering the good old days so that you can then remind yourself that we have come a long way on that journey. And, we want to go further. And so those groups will help and support us to do that. So we'll be sending out some regular updates on the work within the Barrett teams. Once we've got them up and running and we've got the targets agreed, you will be getting regular updates on the work that's taking place there. People Planner, so our system that we're introducing for electronic rostering and electronic systems and processes that will really help us as a business to be more efficient and effective, is already rolled out in our supported living services. And I think we're probably 90% there now with that system working in the way that we want it to be. And that will then generate reports. It will help us to manage payroll more efficiently. At the moment, we all know we've got the brilliant Andrew Roper, who currently receives about 500 lots of 4 weeks worth of timesheets that he has to go through to process. And the new system will enable us to generate reports that will make life much easier, from both the invoicing perspective, making sure we've got accurate records of where people are, being more efficient with our rostering management. And that's now going to be rolled out next across our extra care schemes, and then following that within our nursing care homes. And that will help to cut down on a lot of the paperwork and the admin systems that we've got now. Jan's currently working with the provider of that service to make sure that we know exactly what we need to do and how we need to do it, so that we can then set up the right project team to help to drive that agenda forward. But we're aiming to try and get all of that in place and operating in all of our services efficiently by the end of this year, which will be brilliant and will reduce a lot of the paperwork systems that we're currently using. And there are some myths about the rollout. So we've had some questions that have gone to the unions saying, oh, well, it's a way of them docking our pay if we're 2 minutes late and different things like that, which isn't the case at all. We're very, very old fashioned, as we know at the moment in EMH, with lots of paperwork systems. And this is all part of our journey to be much more efficient and to reduce our paperwork and rely more on systems that contain the ability to produce reports based on accurate data. So if you hear anybody saying it's a way of us trying to dock people's pay, it most definitely isn't a system that we're putting in to do that. And for some of you in the room, you'll be heavily involved in that project and that project mobilisation. So yeah, so there'll be further updates on People Planner coming out. The other bit to just update people on is, as you all know, at this minute in time, we're continuing to pay time and a quarter for staff that do over their contracted hours. And we introduced that at the beginning of COVID in recognition of all the work that staff were doing to help us to keep the services going during the real height of the pandemic. And we've committed to continuing to pay that until September. Between now and September, what we're doing is we're reviewing what else could we do if we stopped paying the time and a quarter, what other benefits could we introduce that would be passed on to all staff. So at the moment, we know that some people have got the ability to work a lot of additional hours, maybe because they haven't got young children, maybe because they're single, maybe because their partner works shifts and it's as easy to do a lot of overtime. But we know that there are also a significant number of staff that can't, even if they wanted to pick up additional hours, they can't because of childcare, because of other commitments. Because actually for some people, if they're reliant on the benefit system to top up their wages, any overtime that they do is detrimental sometimes to their other income. So we want to make sure that we're doing something that could potentially benefit every single employee that we've got. So we're currently exploring other staff reward and recognition services and what they offer and how they could benefit staff, so that if we do move to withdrawing the time and a quarter payment, we've got something that would benefit all staff in place of that moving forward. No decisions have been made on that yet. It is all in the consultative stages, but it is what we are currently exploring based on the reports that we've had on who is doing the additional hours, and whether or not that's reduced the use of agency or reduced the use of bringing in other people to undertake that work. And we'll keep you updated on that as and when we've got more updates. Obviously, decisions will be made by the executive team and by our remunerations committee, who make sure that everything that we do is the best that we can be doing in relation to staff pay terms and conditions. COVID lockdown. We all know, and we just talked about it at the beginning, around holidays now, and the fact that there is a lot more that's opening up out there, a lot more places that we can go, and more importantly, that the people that we support will be going or wanting to go than there has been previously. So, you know, in our temporary accommodation, the people that we support haven't been able to go to the pub, they ain't been able to go out and mingle as much as they did before. Now there will be the opportunity for people to do that. For our service users that like us to support them to go on holidays, you know, they may be sitting there thinking week on the beach in Benidorm, and they may be asking us to support them to go on holidays. So we really, really need now to review our risk assessments, and I've asked Tom Whitaker to have a look at all those risk assessments so that we can review what we've got. But just to put out there, our view will be to err on the side of caution, and I'm pretty sure all of you as managers and members of the team will not want us rushing out supporting our vulnerable people to book holidays abroad at this point in time, for our staff to be going abroad and putting themselves at risk. So we really want to make sure that we're still remaining as cautious as we have been throughout the whole of the pandemic, and we're doing as much as we can to protect ourselves and the people that we support. So if you've got any queries, if somebody's asking you, can we do this? Can I be taken there? Can we be doing the other? Ask those questions first and come forward to get that clarity on what we do want to be doing and what we'd prefer to hold off on a little bit longer, for fear of us really having a surge in the rates of infection. I know most people now have been vaccinated, and I know that we have taken a really cautious approach to it, but the last thing I want now is we start to see an increase because we're not being as cautious as we have been. Face-to-face meetings, we're still saying they should be kept to a minimum. So myself and the rest of the senior management team, we're only doing virtual meetings at the moment. We're not meeting face-to-face. And we do want to get back to that point. I'm not saying that will never happen. We do want to, I want to find out if Jan's got a pair of legs, because I've only ever seen her head and shoulders so far. Do you know, I mean, anything could be going on beneath those shoulders. I've no idea, you know, so I do want us to get there. And we do want managers to be out in the services now. So the quality audit should be starting to be done on site, and we should be going out, but we want to keep that to a minimum. We don't want to be overly ambitious at the minute with reducing some of the restrictions that we've put in place. So that's just a really quick update on COVID, and I'm really pleased to see the nods around the screen there, that you all also don't want us to be jumping in and starting to do lots of things. So that's really pleasing to see from you all as well, that you're agreeing that that's the right approach for us to take. In terms of other quick updates, we've won another contract for our homeless services, Andy. I think it's our first one we're going to be doing on the Housing First project. I don't know if you want to add a bit there, Andy.
Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't want to take any credit for getting the funding. I think Nikki really led on that. But yeah, we've been awarded some funding to provide 6 units of Housing First. One in each of the districts of the Southern Leicestershire Alliance. So there'll be one support worker, because it's quite intensive support working across those 6 units. Nikki, you know, sort of in housing neighbourhoods, will come up with the properties in each area. Hopefully Carl will get them sort of done up, if I can. Can't think of a better way of saying it. From the Voids team, we'll furnish them and obviously employ somebody and start moving in tenants. We're meant to be running by the 1st of July. We found out last week, so it's all a big rush. So yes, success brings its rewards, but it brings its challenges. So yeah.
It does. No, thank you for that, Andy. And you'll all know that homelessness is one of our core areas within our strategy. So learning disability, older people and homelessness are our 3 core agendas within our business. And it's really great because it's took us a long time, Andy, I think, to build relationships with the right people across the different areas we work, to start to actually be seen now as a key player in the homelessness agenda. And I think, as Andy's just said, the issue we've got now is everybody wants to talk to us about it, and it's going to grow and be as popular and as well thought of as the other services that we've had for a long time. So really pleasing to hear that bit. So with that, and with our Springfield development for older and younger working adults, and some of the new developments that we're progressing with, I think it's a really positive time for us as a business to grow and develop, and for all of you to see that growth and development with us. And in terms of that, I haven't got any other key business updates other than we're continuing to work.
Sorry, Joe, I was just saying there's just a couple more questions as well.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that, aren't we? Question time, I think,
Yeah.
Lana. So I know Lana's had some questions that have come through, which I think she's going to shout out, and between us as a senior management team will answer. But that's it on the business updates. And then we'll come on to questions from the floor for anybody that's got any burning issue that they want to raise. We can deal with that then. So do you want to fire away with the questions, Lana?
Yeah, I can do. So the first question that came in said, I'm one of 3 domestic cooks in our home, and for the past 2 years, carers have had a wage rise. And again, this year, they've got a 4% increase. They've all received notification of the rise. We haven't received nothing, and we've been on minimum wage for 2 years and feel this is unfair and we've been discriminated by. During the lockdown, we've gone above and beyond in our duties. That was the first one.
Okay, so to respond to that one, obviously the aim that we've had over the last few years is to make sure that our care and support workers are paid more than the national minimum wage, and that's an agenda that we've worked on that's been supported by the board, and that's where we've aimed that 4% pay award. For the ancillary staff across all of our services, we have made sure that we are meeting national minimum wage. So every year the staff have had an increase in their wage that's brought them up to the national minimum wage level. And that's because within different job families, there's always that difference depending on the level of qualification, experience, and the jobs that those people undertake in relation to the level of pay that they receive. So at this moment in time, the ancillary roles will always stay level with national minimum wage unless we reach a point where that's achievable through different routes. That does not mean in any way that we don't fully appreciate all of the work that's been done by the staff, and that was why every single member of staff within care and support was recognised with a £250 recognition payment that went to everybody regardless of level of role back in the time. So it's not about not recognising the work that we do, it's about ensuring that for the correct job families that there is a relevant difference in pay depending on the tasks and responsibilities of that individual within that role and the level of training and experience that's expected of those staff to do those jobs. So there has been a wage increase, so everybody is still now meeting the national minimum wage, and that did go up this year. But the area that we've been focusing on, we want to focus on salaries across the board. Obviously, we want to do that. But the frontline workers were also on national minimum wage alongside ancillary workers a couple of years ago. And we want to ensure that we are paying frontline workers more than the national minimum wage in recognition of the other types of work that they do that is over and above that. So that's the response. Obviously, I'm happy to take conversations from people offline if there are individuals. In terms of not being notified, my understanding from HR is that everybody has received a letter in relation to their pay. So if anybody hasn't received a letter, if you can let me know, because HR said all the letters had gone out and they'd sent the letters to me to sign off. So if somebody hasn't had a letter notifying them of that, if we can contact HR and let them know, they'll make sure that the relevant letter gets sent out to people.
Thanks, Jo. So then there's just another one that's come through. You gave an update on the redundancy one. The other one was we don't seem to get enough support from our care coordinators, and is it the case they're spread too thinly over the services and consumed by their workload? Sometimes it's just a quick chat that you need for confirmation or something more pressing than that duty doesn't need to be bothered by. Work can be quite stressful at times, and lone working, as for many of us in the company, you just need that conversation and input for support.
Jan, do you want to take that one?
I do, when I can unmute myself, thank you. Yeah, I mean, one of our key objectives are for us to support our staff. We absolutely recognise that this hasn't always or consistently been achieved, and we've been working really hard over the last few months to put in some monitoring systems to ensure that this improves. So this has included ensuring staff receive supervisions, and that has improved. We've noticed that when monitoring our traffic light system in February, almost all of them were red, but through April and May, they're changing now to amber or even green, which is good news. It does mean that people are now getting supervisions. We're also setting up team meetings and ad hoc phone calls, because it's really important that your care coordinators are supporting you. And, my expectation has been cascaded to operations managers, registered managers, and then assistant managers and care coordinators, that our staff are our main resource. You know, without them, we can't deliver our services. We want to make sure that they have the support that they need, but also the support we want to give them. You know, we do value our staff, and we can only show that by being there for them. So if they've got a query, or they're having a challenging moment, they should feel free to pick the phone up to their line manager to get that support. But equally, they should also know that if it's something that doesn't need an instant response, they should know that there's regular contact from their line manager. As Jo mentioned earlier, the new registered manager for supported living, Jodie Bird, is starting next week. And one of her key priorities is to ensure that staff are receiving the support they need, because it is something we had recognised ourselves that wasn't where we need it to be and where we want it to be. But I'd also like to add that if anybody feels they're not being supported by their line manager, then we absolutely need to know about it. And I'd like them to, first of all, notify their registered manager or the operations manager. And the way we're doing that is, I mean, currently for supported living, it's obviously Sam. But if Sam's not available, we have Nen on board now. And Sam and Nen, although they have their own areas of responsibility, are covering and supporting each other, particularly over the next 6 to 12 months as things are settling down. And if you can't get any joy from those, then I want you to come to me, because we are, as I said, absolutely committed to ensuring that our staff receive the right support. And it is a team effort for us to get there.
Thank you for that, Jan. And just echo what Jan says, really, if any of you feel that you're not supported enough in your role, then, shout up. You're our key asset. I've always said that. We can't deliver any of this, and we can't change services and change lives and deliver a brilliant service to the people we support without every one of you feeling engaged, supported and committed and motivated to deliver a great job. So always shout up if you feel that that's not there. And then the floor is yours, as they say. You can now fire away any questions you want, and I'll direct them to others in the meeting. So fire away. Any comments from anybody? Anything that we've not covered that you would have wanted to have heard about or hoped we were going to raise today? Louise? Louise
seems to have her hand up, Jo.
Yes, got it.
Hello. You spoke about having sort of ICT involved in the different areas within EMH and the improvements that they're making. Are EMH looking at getting Wi-Fi in the buildings for tenants in extra care and other places? Is that something they're looking into in the future?
Yeah, so what we're doing at the moment, Louise, we've just had it agreed that Wi-Fi will be in place within the communal areas of the scheme at Springfields. So if the residents come out of their apartments and they're down in the communal areas, or anybody's in the communal areas themselves, they will have access to Wi-Fi. We're not going as far as making that available in people's own apartments. We're still saying that should really be down to the individuals. If they want Wi-Fi and Sky Telly and whatever else they might want, that's down to them in relation to their tenancy. But it's a bit dated now, and we recognise that, not to have Wi-Fi available in communal areas of schemes. And so we're putting that into Springfield, and then we're having a look at how we do that. So this should come out as part of the working group that we've got set up to look at ICT, because I know that that is an issue, and I know it's something that our tenants feel we're a bit behind on. We want to be able to make the schemes so that, if Andy wants to come and work there for the day, or, Laura, visiting managers, that they've got access to Wi-Fi while they're there. So yeah, it is something that we are looking at and exploring as part of the digital journey that we're on.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions about anything?
Liz has got her hand up, Jo.
Liz?
All right, yeah, this is just from the domestics to say that they haven't received any email or letter to say that they weren't getting a pay rise like everyone else, and they want to know who they have to email to discuss this and take it further.
I would imagine if you email Helen, Liz, Helen Garnett, Karen sent the letters out, I believe, but I know Karen's on annual leave until she's on annual leave all next week. But I would imagine Helen would be able to find out why those letters haven't gone out, because they should have gone out.
Yeah, okay, I'll let them all know. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Liz. Anybody else got anything that they want to raise? Lovely. Well, can I leave you all with
there
one?
Is someone else with a hand up, Joe. Sorry. Well, Andy's put his up now, and there's someone else.
It's Paula Russia.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. It's just I've done a team meeting up at Maston Moor yesterday, where we have a waking night, and one of the staff queried why he seemed to be on a similar wage for being awake all night when sleeping staff are paid a similar amount, which I think it's brilliant that we're keeping it. But I do get what he's saying as well, that he's getting a similar amount for being up all night and they're getting paid for being asleep. Does that make sense?
It does, but that's not how it should work, Paula. So your waking member of night staff will get the hourly rate that they would normally get if they were doing a shift during the day. So it's £9.31 now. What happens with the staff who do sleep-ins is a sleep-in is 9 hours and they get paid £40 for a sleep-in. And then what Andrew Roper does is he calculates then if that 9 hours on the night shift had been paid at national minimum wage, which is £8.95, I want to say, then we have to top up the difference between the 40 payment. So it won't work out the same. He will get his full hourly rate for a night shift, which is £9.31, whereas the other staff get a £40 payment for a sleep-in. And then we work out how many hours they've worked over the week, including 9 hours for the sleep-in. And then we make up the difference. So the whole of their hours are then calculated on national minimum wage.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
He's definitely better off. To describe it to him better, Andrew Roper might be able to give him an example. I could have a go at doing it, but I think I'd probably cock it up and have to ask Andrew anyway. So
if I ask Andrew for a...
Andrew might be able to explain to him what that would look like if those shifts that he's doing on nights were turned into sleep-ins. He would be less pay. Admittedly, possibly not a massive amount of difference, but it is a different rate of pay.
And another question I got asked to ask was maternity pay. When we become, because we're working towards 1 EMH, will the terms and conditions around maternity pay match the rest of the organisation? Because in care and support they don't.
It's okay. I can't answer that off the top of my head. What we have been looking at, Paula, as you'll probably know from some of your days attending staff side as a rep, what we've been looking at for a while now is benchmarking the terms and conditions of EMH Group and EMH Homes with EMH Care and Support, so we can identify the differences. But as we've always said, we are a very different type of business to the landlord services, where their income levels and their surpluses are much different to that of the charity because of the way that we get paid. We all know adult social care doesn't generate a lot of income and it doesn't generate a lot of surpluses. So to actually achieve all of that will be difficult, but we are moving on that journey. So I'll try and find out what the differences are. So Lana, if you can email me with a reminder of that question, and when Karen gets back from leave, I'll have a look at what the differences are in that, so we can put that down. But we are definitely going to do a review and benchmarking to see where the differences lie, and whether or not it's a journey that we can start on is something that we can look at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paula. I've got another hand up, AB.
Hi Joe, it's John from Fisher Close. I've just got a concern raised by quite a lot of staff. They're just quite concerned as they're picking up a lot of overtime, and they're finding that they're really worn out and that staff are leaving. As a company, we're not replacing staff, so we're really short-staffed at the moment in nursing homes. So I'm just wondering what I can tell them to give them some reassurance.
Okay, John, thank you for the question, John. I just gave a little bit of an update at the beginning about the nursing care homes. We put vacancies on hold a few months ago now. It's probably been naturally coming up for nearly a year. And that was because obviously Derbyshire County Council came round and did some reviews of all of the nursing care home services. And they said that we had more staff on duty than our other competing nursing care homes, and that the levels of staff and our bed prices are significantly higher than others providing a similar type of service to adults with learning disability. And so we started to work on that with Derbyshire County Council. And what we did during that period of time was we placed vacant positions on hold, because what we didn't want to do was people giving up permanent jobs to join us and then to end up placing people at risk. If it does turn out as part of the review, we need to reduce down the numbers of people that we've got. So we haven't said we can't staff up to that level, and I know that there's a lot of overtime and also a very high use of agency across our nursing care home services at the minute to continue with the level of service that we currently provide. I'm doing a piece of work at this minute in time with Karen, and I've got the numbers now of all of the staff levels at each of the nursing care homes. And as soon as Jan and I have got an opportunity to start to look at that, which is probably likely to be around the end of June, beginning of July, we'll start to look at that, the current levels of staffing that we're operating with, and we'll start to have a look at what an ideal structure in each nursing care home might look like. At that point, we'll obviously do some of that work with the managers, and we'll start to then work on what structure we want in our nursing care homes, and we'll start the effective processes to talk to all of the staff about that and what that might look like going forward. So at this moment in time, we are still not recruiting, but if we can come up with anything that we think we can recruit to, then we'll be in contact with you ASAP, and that should be over the next 4 weeks when we should be able to identify that.
Lovely, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, John. Has anybody else got any hands up, Lana?
Andy, Joe. Yeah, Andy.
Andy?
Hello.
Hello.
So my team have expressed a desire to kind of meet face to face for our next team meeting, maybe at a coffee shop or you know, pub meal or something. What do you think the corporate view is on that?
Okay, so the corporate view at this moment in time is that groups of people meeting together should only be done where essential and should be very, very limited and restricted. So to give you an example, we had our EMT yearly catch up on the business plan last week, and that was done virtually. So although we would have all wanted to have met together and done all the work that we normally do in a face-to-face capacity, and obviously enjoyed a coffee and a sandwich on our break together, the view of the business was it's too risky at this point in time to do anything outside of what we really need to until we can kind of see are the levels of infection going to increase over the next few months now places have been opened up. And so I think we're still taking quite a cautious approach to that, Andy. Have said to everybody, if they feel that there is a reason to meet face to face, I'm happy to discuss that with people, but generally those decisions will go into our coronavirus team meetings, which Laura and Lana attend. If there's any queries on that. We are, however, opening up face-to-face training and looking at the numbers of people that we can safely accommodate for face-to-face training. But the general view is that we have got this facility to meet online as we're doing today. And unless there's a real strong case to meet face-to-face, it's not something that we're encouraging at this minute in time.
Sorry, can I come back on that? Just because you've just sparked something for the PIE training. We want to do some face-to-face PIE training if we can, but it's not going to be like the kind of compulsory, you know what I mean, they're required by a commission. So do you know where we are? Or do I need to check with L&D in terms of face-to-face training, whether it is just mandatory training or whether it's wider than that would be allowed face-to-face?
Yeah, I think if you want to have a chat to Lynn, about it, Andy, and what's been put in place. We are continuing with face-to-face training where it's mandatory, definitely, because we're so behind on our mandatory training. But I think if we can have a look at the risk assessment for that, and have we got a safe enough space and all the things in place, depending on the numbers, it might be something that we could look at for your team. So yeah, have a chat to Lynn, and then we can always have a chat if we need to separately about that.
Okie doke, will do, thanks.
You're welcome. Anything, has anybody else got a hand up? Because I think I've got a delay here at my end.
No, no more. It's exactly 11 o'clock.
What? That was good timing, wasn't it? So, I mean, I'd like to personally say thank you for those that have attended. We've got some regular faces now on these meetings, which is brilliant to see. If there's any suggestions about core topics or anything you think I should be telling you about or we should be discussing and debating, then just send those through. I think Lana's set up an email address for them to go through to, or you can email Lana or myself directly. If there's anything you'd want to update in these meetings as well, or if you've got any suggestions about how we can improve them, then please do let us know, because they're fairly new and I'd like to keep going with them because it means I get to see more of you. But yeah, if you can let us know any suggestions, and also encourage your teams to join. And if they've got a question, say to them, well, join the meeting and ask the question. So let's try and get more staff engaged. It's really important that we have got an engaged workforce, and you know, I like to see people that work for us and have that engagement, and I know the rest of the senior management team do as well. So yeah, if you can share that, and if you can take away one word, if you can take away the word recruitment, and if you can have a think about what part can you play at all in supporting us to get fully staffed, that would be amazing, because the more I can do that, the more opportunity I've got to really keep looking at how we can improve what we do and the way that we work. So if you could get on Facebook, if you could join us, if you could encourage your staff to join us, that would be brilliant. And I'd like to thank you all for your participation, for giving up an hour of your day to join us, and for your comments and your communications during the meeting. It's been really appreciated. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.